In this video, we're going to talk about one of the most brutal and gruesome portions of the book of Revelation. We're going to talk about the apocalyptic, multi-headed monster, the fate of those who take the mark of the beast, and the infamous burning sulfuric lake of fire, and some gross birds. Most importantly, we're going to talk about what it meant to the original readers and what, if anything, it might mean for you and me. So let's get straight into it. Near the end of the book of Revelation, in chapter 19, John, the author, reintroduces us to his apocalyptic vision of Jesus, riding on a white horse, ready for battle, with eyes like fire and a sword emerging from his mouth. Then things get gruesome. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, who cried in a loud voice to all the birds flying in midair, "Come and gather together for the great supper of God, so that you may eat the flesh of kings, generals, and the mighty, of horses and their riders, and the flesh of all people, free and slave, great and small." Then I saw the beasts and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to wage war against the rider on the horse and his army. But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed the signs on its behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. The two of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. The rest were killed with the sword coming out of the mouth of the rider on the horse, and all the birds gorged themselves on their flesh. First and foremost, it's not literal. Apocalyptic literature is a unique genre born out of the Judeo-Christian tradition, and it doesn't emerge when things are going well. It emerges during times of heightened crisis, strife, and suffering, during times when people are deeply questioning the promises of God based on their current circumstances. Apocalyptic writing is not for predicting specific literal future events that are going to take place. It's not about providing a coded timeline for the end of the world, detailing what's going to happen, even though those events would have no bearing on the original reader's experience or existence whatsoever. It was a genre that used familiar images borrowed from their existing religious tradition to pull back the curtain on what God was up to amidst their current reality, to give them hope and strengthen their faith, to encourage them to stand firm in the face of an empire that was coercing them to compromise on their Jesus-centered values, lest they be crushed for refusing to comply. So let's talk first about those birds feasting on flesh in the lake of fire. So where did these images come from? Well, the prophet Ezekiel makes a pronouncement of judgment on Gog of Magog, a leader of a relatively unknown threat to the north of Israel who would attack them. Not one people group, but a coalition of tribes and nations. That image has then been interpreted amongst many Jewish people as imagery of a final battle between the Messiah and the people of God and those who would oppose messianic rule. In his vision, Ezekiel says, "This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Mashech and Tubal. I will turn you around and drag you along. I will bring you from the far north and send you against the mountains of Israel. Then I'll strike your bow from your left and make your arrows drop from your right hand. On the mountains of Israel you will fall, you and all your troops and nations with you. I will give you as food to all kinds of carrion birds and to the wild animals." You see, John is borrowing this familiar imagery, and he expands it into a cosmic and final battle between the final rider and the beast, the false prophet, and all those who took the mark of the beast. The point of this imagery is not that a future day is coming when literal birds are going to feast on the flesh of anybody who took the mark of the beast. Birds feasting on flesh is a symbol of total dishonorable defeat. No burial, no ritual, just a carcass left for the buzzards. John's not seeing a literal future so much as he is pulling this imagery from the past to communicate to his readers, hey, listen, everyone who is deceived and pulled in by the empire, all those who compromise with her engine of injustice and system of dehumanization, the kings, the merchants, everyone will meet their proper and righteous judgment, and there will be no honor in it. For those original readers in the first century, the beast represented the Roman Empire. The false prophet represented the entire religious system and those who propagated it, that propped up and demanded worship and allegiance to the empire. The mark was John's way of differentiating between those who participated in the empire and those who would stand firm and resist it. John's point for his readers in using this buzzard vulture-like imagery was to encourage them that judgment ultimately was going to await those who benefited from and participated in and propped up this empire. Now, what what about the false prophet and the beast getting tossed into the lake of fire? Well, this is also ancient judgment imagery. Whether it's the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah, the promised judgment of the fire raining down in Ezekiel, or Jeremiah talking about Topheth becoming the stream of fiery brimstone in the Hinnom Valley, which was a place that Jeremiah the prophet references as a place that's going to eventually be referred to as the Valley of Slaughter. John takes all this Old Testament imagery and rolls it into one apocalyptic act of judgment. The beast represents the empire. The false prophet, that empirical religious system that propped the empire up. Both of those things are going to be dealt with in judgment. One swift act, tossed into the lake of fire. Literally, should we expect a literal lake of fire to appear and be on the lookout for the rider to come and throw a multi-headed beast into it with his false prophet? No. The point is, drawing on that powerful judgment imagery from their religious tradition and prophets to say to his readers, judgment of this entire oppressive system will come. The essence of empire will burn. Those who rely and try it will ultimately be judged. Those who deceive others into it are going to be dealt with. So stand firm. Resist the empire. God will act against them. Jesus will pronounce and enact judgment on these things. Speaking of that judgment, the imagery says that the rest, all those who took the mark of the beast, those who profited off of empire, will be killed with the sword coming out of the mouth of the rider. Should we take that literally? No. Nothing up until this point has been meant to be taken literally. Again, this is a solemn warning and a strengthening encouragement. This literature has become evergreen in every generation, not because we're all awaiting some final beast and false prophet in the lake of fire, but because the people of God in every generation are encouraged to always resist empire, resist systems of dehumanization that operate on engines of injustice. Beware of leaders who sell out their own people, the ones that they're supposed to lead in order to enrich themselves, in order to profit off the empire while people suffer. Beware of religious systems that deceive you into pledging your allegiance to empires of any form. Beware of leaders who command compliance on the threat of you being crushed. Beware of leaders who lead with intimidation, fear, and selfishness. These are the echo of the beast system. When empires elevate merchants as the most famous, when empires promise wealth and prosperity for all but only deliver it to a few, when empires promise flourishing to people at the expense of the dignity and humanity of others, when empires promise peace built on a threat of violence, resist. Stand firm. God will not stand for that. That's not the kingdom. Remember, Revelation isn't about us here, now. It was about them, there, then. But understanding what it meant to them can help us understand what it could mean for us. Like stand firm in your faith. Remember, something better is coming. That's my take. What about you? Let me know what you think of the beast, the mark of the beast, and the lake of fire in the comments.